the prior recorded Lunchtime Hot Topics to play again later on, maybe with some of your leadership team or staff, as well as the audio and the PowerPoints. Those are always made available. Today, we want to give you some updates on the areas of assessments, the new ESEA implementation that will be going into effect in 17-18. We will give you an update on the new accreditation model, the Kansas Education Systems Accreditation, or we call it KISA. We're giving you an update on as we move into this transition year. We're calling it 0 year, all the regional events that we're hosting around the state. Then you'll also have an update on individual plans of study, and also what we're looking at trying to move forward with job shadowing, internships as part of that experience. Again, throughout this, if you have any questions, email your questions, comments, future agenda items that you want us to cover to lunchtime@ksde.org, and we'll be able to follow up on those, and then also gives us topics for future Lunchtime Hot Topics. We're excited for this school year at the State Department. Really trying to help the board move their vision forward, following up on what Kansan said was valued and important. We value your input, and just looking forward to an exciting school year. I know Randy and I both have been to a lot of school districts the start of the school year, a lot of excitement, and we're always here to partner with you and however we can, and don't ever hesitate to reach out and contact us. So up first will be Beth Fultz giving you an update on where we're at with assessments for the 2016-17 school year.
Hello, my name is Beth Fultz, and I'm an Assistant Director on the Career Standards and Assessment Services. Today I'm going to give you an assessment update and briefly talk to you about where we are for the 2016 accountability. I get the privilege to share with you some very exciting news. 2017, you will see a smaller footprint for the summative assessments. Specifically, there will be no MDPT, that's the English Language Arts writing task, or the MPT, the math performance task, as part of the summative assessment. In 2016, this was the assessment that you gave to the students in February, and it will no longer be part of the summative assessment. This means there will be no hand scoring of the performance tasks, and there is no statewide expectation that districts volunteer teachers to score. So that's exciting news for everyone. The performance tasks will not be part of the summative assessment. The other exciting thing about the 2017 assessments is that there will be fewer testing sessions. In 2016, we had 4 different sessions that a student would set for in ELA and math. We've condensed those sessions into 2 per subject. So in English Language Arts, there will be 2 class periods that you should expect to administer this assessment. The same thing for math and the same thing for science. ELA and math will adapt between sessions 1 and 2, so we would recommend that you give each of those sessions on different days. The students would set for session 1 ELA on day 1, and on day 2 they would set for the second session. The assessment window for 2017 will be March 14th to April 28th. I would encourage you to watch all the listserv announcements for the client installation updates. We've already started putting information out about how you would get your machines ready to administer the test. And the other change is that the assessment manual will not be available until January. Usually in the fall, we're still making corrections and edits, and we just think it will be easier for everyone to print a final copy in January. Finally, the DLM assessment. The DLM assessment is our alternate assessment for our most cognitively severe students. For DLM and English Language Arts and Math, we use the instructionally embedded, or it's known as the through course model. There are 3 testing windows for this assessment, fall, winter, and spring, and the students must assess in each window. Test coordinators and teachers can have access through the educator portal in KITE right now to start preparing for the assessment, to select the EEs that the students will be tested on, and then the assessment window to actually start assessing students will be open on the 21st of September. Other assessments I'd like to talk to you about today: the History, Government, Social Studies. The State Board of Education will be setting those cut scores and the performance levels at the September board meeting. Once the State Board sets the cut points for the assessment, then CETE will need to process that information and they will make score reports available to you on the CETE KITE Educator portal site, just the same as the English Language Arts and Math reports were available. We will put the results in AMOS, so you can go in and look at that, and then we will add the data to the building report card either in November or December. History, Government, Social Studies is an every other year assessment, and there will be no assessment in 2017. Science, I just want to remind you that there were no results for 2016. It was a field test. We assess every year in science at grades 5, 8, and 11. There will be 2 sessions in 2017, the same as with English Language Arts and Math, but science is not an adaptive test. Standard setting will occur next summer, the summer of 2017, so you won't see science results for the 2017 assessment until about this time in 2018, similar to what we're going through with History Government right now. The English Learner Proficiency Exam. In 2016, we administered the ELPA 21. As you know, that you had to go through a Questar site to administer the assessment. The consortium is, as we speak, just finalizing the results and the cut points and all the data. That data has to be sent from Questar back to CETE to be reviewed and then sent on to KSDE before we can release any data. We expect the data to be available sometime in October from KSDE through the authenticated application website. The results then would be added to the building report card in November or December, similar to History, Government, Social Studies. In 2017, the test has been renamed to KELPA, not to be confused with the test we gave a few years ago called KELPA, but it's K-ELPA. It will be administered by CETE through the KITE engine. All 4 domains will be assessed. It will require headphones with a microphone. Students will be required to speak into the microphone. It will be recorded on the device. Headphones are required for listening and directions. District and buildings will be responsible for scoring the speaking and writing domains. The results will be linked to the 2016 assessment. More information will come out about KELPA as it becomes available. We'll pass it on and provide it to you. Last thing I want to talk to you about the 2017 assessments. We're very excited about the interim assessments that we're developing in ELA and math. If you've heard the commissioner or the deputy commissioner speak over the last few months, you know that we're really pushing a balanced approach to state assessments and accountability. As we shrink the summative footprint, it's our intent to make interim assessments available to you for instruction. These interim assessments will be aligned to the Kansas content standards. It offers an opportunity for teachers to focus on smaller sets of related concepts, and then many tests will be available over those related areas. Will provide timely and useful instruction, informational instruction that you can use. I think I said that wrong. We'll back up and say information for instructional purposes. So phase 1, this rollout of the interim assessments, it's a very large project, and it will take us about 3 years to implement it, as the blueprint would indicate. So phase 1 is this assessment year. Starting October 3rd, interim assessments will be available through the KITE portal. They require a task record. It's the same KITE platform as the summative assessment, so students will be familiar with it. You will get immediate results to the mini tests that are administered. Teachers will be able to select what mini tests they want to give, and we encourage everyone to go in and use as many of the mini tests as you can, because this is our baseline year to start collecting a lot of information for what we hope to be able to do in the future. Phase 2 would be next year, October 2017. At that time, we will have mini tests that will be available in 3 different windows: fall, winter, and spring, similar to what the NWEA MAP offers. They will be enhanced in reporting for instructional purposes, and they will be predictive to the summative. By 2018, we hope to have enough students taking interim assessments that we'll have data so we can actually provide information to you about the growth of each student as they move through the school year. So it's an exciting new opportunity that will be available to you free of charge through the state, interim assessments. The last thing I would need to talk to you about today would be the 2016 assessment results and how the results will be used for accountability. There are 3 different places that you can find assessment results from the 2016 assessment. The first one has been available to you for a couple months. It's the CETE KITE website. That's where you download the student reports. You have building reports and district reports available to you. The student reports on the ELA assessment will include the MDPT, and you'll see a combined performance level. These are the reports we have available today for instructional purposes. You'll notice they provide some information, should be used more as a summative test to look at your overall curriculum and how you're working at the grade level within buildings and at the district level. They really don't provide a lot of instructional information for students. That's why we're moving to the interim assessments. So you will have timely information to use for the instruction of students. At the KSDE website on the authenticated page, you will find the results that we received from CETE, and then we've asked you to go through and make sure that the students that we're reporting are actually your students, that all of the demographic information matches, and then we apply through AMOS 2 different business rules to the populations that we report. The accountability population would be the students that were there from the beginning of the school year, the 920 count, through the testing window and took a test. The report card population, we often refer to this population as the participation group, and that would be any student that was enrolled when the testing window opened. So we make a big distinction at the agency, the State Department, between the students that were there the entire year that we would hold you accountable for versus the participation population, which would be anyone enrolled when the window opens for testing. At the KSDE website, we're only looking at machine scored results. So on the CETE website, your ELA student reports will have a combined performance level. On the KSDE website, you're only going to see the machine scored piece of that ELA report used for accountability. And finally, we report the data publicly. This will happen after the October State Board of Education meeting on the building report card, and that's where we will have the AMOS, as we're calling it now, Academic Measure of Student Success, where you can go in and look at the data for the schools. The public can look at it either with the accountability population or the report card population. So that's a brief summary of where we are for 2017, kind of a recap on how we're ending the year for 2016. And if you need to contact me, again, my name is Beth Fultz, and my email would be bfultz@ksde.org.
So welcome to the Lunchtime Hot Topics. I'm Jay Scott. I work at the Kansas State Department of Education. I work in career and technical education, and today we're going to be presenting to all of you out there listening on individual plans of study. And with me,
Kathleen Mercer with the Kansas State Department of Education and the Kansas Board of Regents.
And so what we'd like to do today is just give everyone an update on an initiative that's one of our 5 outcomes for the board's new vision in Kansas, and that's that every student beginning in the middle grades will have an individual plan of study to help them progress towards success in life after high school. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with a fact sheet that was just that was put out last spring, and I'm going to drag that over and we'll take a look at this. This was finalized this last spring and has survived the summer, and this is what we're heading into the fall semester with. But individual plans of study, you can see our vision statement there. This starts off with the why behind an individual plan of study, why it's so important. And I'll just sum it up that post-secondary education completion, not just enrollment, but completion, is more important than ever before. As you can see from this chart, this is the United States, not just in Kansas, but you can see that the more post-secondary education, basically a post-secondary credential means much more than just stopping or not even reaching a diploma level for students. So we think an individual plan of study is a way for students and families to progress towards that post-secondary completion that we're all after to help our students be more competitive in the workforce. What is an individual plan of study? And we'll get into this a little bit later, so I'll breeze through this. But this is the product side of an individual plan of study. The actual product, and these are the 4 components that an individual plan of study must have to implement in your schools. This is a little bit about the how. We'll get into this again a little bit more later. This is alluding to the process. How a school, what kind of process, what kind of system does a school adopt to lead students and families in developing an individual plan of study? This is a nice diagram of a K through 12 career guidance curriculum approach, where in the elementary school level, you start with career exposure. You get the kids out on field trips. You look at the big career fields that are out there, like agriculture, like building and designing things, health sciences, those kinds of things. At the elementary level, really stay broad, just exposure. And then middle school, you start having the students identify career interests. And this is where the individual plan of study would start. And it's usually kicked off, and Kathleen's going to take you through a slide that shows you a process, but it's usually kicked off with some sort of career interest inventory for the student. And then the high school, you can get a little bit more refined down into the pathways and career explore. It's not necessarily about completing a career pathway at the high school level. It's more about exploring and finding some areas of interest that you want to pursue in post-secondary that lead you to success. And then we'll end with some parting thoughts as our last slide today. So with that, I'm going to move on to the process, and I believe Kathleen's going to take it from here. I got it.
Thank you, Jay. So when we're talking about the individual plan of study process, implementing an individual plan of study in your school, that's probably the most important part of what we're dealing with individual plans of study. I'd like to take you to a diagram. If you look in the top left part of the circle, you see step 1 is getting started. And with getting started, what you're going to want to do is assess how ready your institution is to implement an individual plan of study. Which key stakeholders do you need involved in the major decisions on how you're going to implement this individual plan of study? Step 2 is selecting and using a web-based guidance system. Now, there are a variety of them out there, and you can also create your own. However, it's an important part of the process is having the right tools at your disposal, and that's where we'll talk about the product here in a little bit. Step 3 is how you're going to structure those individual plan of study sessions that you'll have with the students, and there are various ways that we can do that. Step 4 is what curriculum are you going to use? Where are you going to get it? How are you going to use that curriculum? Is it already available in some courses that you have? How do we make sure that that curriculum is accessed in the most efficient manner? Step 5, you're looking at the roles for adult stakeholders. What are the actual roles for the teachers and the paras and the principals, parents, counselors, in the process of implementing an individual plan of study? And step 6, you're going to look at training the school staff. What's the best way to train the staff and make sure that the professional development is not only thorough, but gives them an opportunity to go back and revisit the areas that they need additional support. Step 7, as a school, you're going to need to decide when is the best time to hold your individual plan of study sessions. And there are a variety of models available. Some people do it during a homeroom or advisory session. Some people do it during parent-teacher conferences. It varies from school to school, and it needs to be based on what works in your community. Step 8 is motivating students and staff and families to embrace the individual plan of study. It is vital to the process that the entire community embraces and understands the purpose behind the individual plan of study in order for it to have the effect that we need it to have. And then step 9 is the ongoing assessment of this process, going back over what's happened and evaluating what's working and what isn't. I think Jay is going to go back and focus on step 3 for us, structuring IPS sessions, the 4 models that you could use in those sessions.
And thank you, Kathleen. And before we move on to that next slide, I do want to reiterate or emphasize with the group that Kathleen's put together a really nice toolkit. It's not been finalized yet, but it's close. It's more of a detailed document outlining exactly the diagram that you see in front of you to really help. And just as Kathleen said, all along with individual plans of study, we've said, and we believe this, that the process is much more important than the product. So schools that are putting a lot of time and energy into the planning stages of how to implement the process, how you're going to bring families, engage families and students with individual plans of study, that's where a lot of the mental energy needs to be placed. And this toolkit will serve as a really good guide. And also along with the toolkit will be a short summary of it in a couple pages that will be coming out. So be looking for that. And just as Kathleen also alluded to, step 3, we spent quite a bit of time in the spring of 2016 across the state. We got in front of over 1,000 counselors and principals, board members, superintendents, assistant superintendents, all around individual plans of study, the product and the process. And we spent the majority of the time on the process during these sessions and came away with a pretty clear understanding of they're out in Kansas right now. There are 4 models or 4 processes that schools are adopting. And the great news was we had bright spots from across the state who are already implementing individual plans of study in their schools, and they were able to come and share during those sessions. So each of those sessions we tried to have one school representing each of these models. So we had a few schools that adopted the counselor-centered model, where the IPS curriculum and implementation, all that is based through the counselor, the counselor or the counselors. There were a few schools that have taken on that, and I think traditionally that would be the best person to serve in that role. However, the second model was the one that schools were most interested in, and that was where maybe the counselor took the lead, but all school staff were involved as ad hoc career advisors for students. So there was a little bit of training involved with that, obviously, but it's an all staff approach to individual plans of study, where all staff become in a maybe a smaller way career advisors for students. The third model is career advocates, where these are brand new positions. Basically, they could be counselors, they could be teachers, but they are their whole job in a school as a career advocate is to meet with students and families around their individual learning plans, individual plans of study, and take that approach. So, and then the last model is a hybrid approach. It's any combination of models 1 through 3. And we did have a couple of schools that were putting in some systems where it involved career advocates, but also involved a counselor, and then some all staff things. So kind of a hybrid model. So that's kind of a breakdown of the 4 models that exist in Kansas. There are probably more out there, and we need to get out and find out more about those so we could spread that across the state to help everybody as they focus on the process of an individual plan of study. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Kathleen to talk about the product.
Thanks, Jay. So as far as the product is concerned, you know, there are a variety of products out there that you can use, or you can build your own. But ultimately, we're going to want to cover some particular components. Make sure that these are the 4 things that you're doing when you're implementing an individual plan of study. First, you need a graduated series of strength finders and career interest inventories that will help students identify their preference toward career clusters. These should be given over the 4 years that the students are in high school at the minimum. Beginning in 7th or 8th grade would be even better. Giving these interest inventories once or twice over that time frame really doesn't gather enough information for the students to make educated decisions around their preferences, because as we know, students grow and change significantly over that time frame. So you want to make sure that you're giving these strength finders and career interest inventories over that entire time frame. The second component is that we want a scheduling process for students in the 8th through the 12th grade that ensures that their course selections are based on their career interests. So we want to make sure there is an alignment between those inventories and strength finders and the courses the students are enrolling in. The third component is that we want students to have a general post-secondary plan beginning in the middle grades, going all the way through 2 years post-secondary. Specifically, we want 9 through 14 covered so that students can work backwards from their post-secondary opportunities. For example, if a student wants to go into nursing, they might be able to look at what's required for the first 2 years of college and work backwards from that to determine the math courses they would need to take to be successful in a nursing program. That post-secondary plan does not have to include college specifically. It could be workforce, military, certification program, technical school, community college, or 4-year college. But we need them to have some type of post-secondary plan that continues after they leave high school. And then the fourth component is a portable electronic portfolio. We need students to be able to collect and maintain documents pertaining to what they've achieved in such a way that they can access that later to apply for jobs, apply for college, apply for internships, any type of activities that they're wanting to pursue. When you're looking at products, you need to consider some vendors who are available. If you look at the possible vendors that we have listed here, you have Career Cruising, Naviance, and Cooter. Now these are the top 3 that are used in the state currently. And Career Cruising is our state preferred vendor. What that means is that we have negotiated some particular costs, professional development, and components with Career Cruising to ensure that you are getting the best product, the best value regarding individual plan of study. Naviance and Cooter also offer products, and they are excellent products. Some schools have been using Cooter for years and want to continue using it. Some are using Naviance and want to continue using it, and that's absolutely fine. You can use whatever product you need to use that works for your school. You can use no product and just come up with resources that you want to use in your community. What we do need you to do is make sure that you're hitting those 4 components no matter what product you use. But the vendor information is listed here in case you'd like to contact any of these resources to get more information about the products that they offer. I think Jay is going to give us some more information regarding the state preferred vendor Career Cruising and the negotiated costs that we have with them.
Excellent. So here is, if you are a school district that between January 1 of 2016 and September 1 of this year, if you signed up with Career Cruising, then this is the cost model that they will be offering to schools, and this is for middle schools and high schools. So basically what we wanted to do is to provide help to school districts with the product side of an individual plan of study. We went out and found, we were looking for more than just one vendor, but one vendor came out in the end that met all the components and at a reasonable cost, and that was Career Cruising. So if you sign up with Career Cruising between January 1 and September 1 of this year, you are eligible for some startup cost reimbursement from the State Department of Ed. Now, there are 2 types of costs when you sign up with Career Cruising. There are subscription costs, and that's either a flat fee for your school district, depending on your size, or it's a per student cost, again, depending on the size of your school or your enrollment. And then there are startup costs, and those are one time only. The subscription costs are yearly. The startup costs are one time only. KSDE is reimbursing schools for their startup costs. And as you can see from this chart, it's a little busy, but if you are a school district under 500 students for K-12 or a school district under 500 students for 6 through 12, which is a majority of our schools in Kansas, this is the cost structure you will follow when you sign up with Career Cruising. The subscription fee, the part that's a yearly fee for your students, is $1,500. And as a further help from KSDE, for the first year that you sign up, KSDE will reimburse you half the cost of that $1,500 subscription fee. So $750 from KSDE, the schools pay $750 for the first year. Every year after that, that subscription cost would go back to $1,500 for the school. In addition to half the subscription costs for our smaller school districts, KSDE is also reimbursing your startup costs. And I believe those startup costs are down here. For under 500 students, grades 8 through 12, or under 500 K through 12, I think that should probably say 6 through 12. There's a one-time setup fee for $800. So for schools in these enrollment numbers, 500 students, K-12 or 6 through 12, under 500 students, basically KSD will reimburse you $1,550 after September 1st. For the larger school districts, it gets into a per student cost. At the middle school level, it's $2 per student. High school level, $3 per student. That's a subscription cost, and that's paid by the school district. KSDE will reimburse larger school districts a one-time setup fee of $400 per middle school, $800 per high school, again after September 1st. this is the cost structure. Obviously, by this point, most schools that are interested in using career cruising have signed on. You still have until September 1st. After September 1st, if you want to sign up, if a school district wants to hold off this year and wants to sign up with career cruising for next year, for 17-18, we're going to follow the exact same process for 17-18 next year. So if you want to hold off again until 17-18, you sign up after January 1, 2017, you'll have until September 1, 2017 to sign up with career cruising. It'll be under the same cost model. So within 2 years' time, 2 school years, we hope to have as many schools signed up with a product they're comfortable with. Career cruising is a state preferred one that schools can go with. And I think Kathleen's going to take you through some of the upcoming dates for career cruising.
So we have some trainers from Career Cruising who will be coming in to provide in-person training for new and previous service schools. So you have the opportunity on any of these dates to attend training sessions with Career Cruising trainers. So Monday, September 26th, we'll have training in Eudora. Tuesday, September 27th, ESDAC Hutchinson. Wednesday, September 28th, Smoky Hill and Salina. Thursday, September 29th, Clearwater. And Friday, September 30th, Greenbush Main Campus. So if any of these look good to you, you'll need to go online and sign up for those at the Service Center sites. This is open to anyone to be able to access going to these trainings who is a new or previous service school. Additional trainings are in the works right now for training in Oakley and second trainings at Eudora and Salina. So we're trying to set up 3 more trainings, and we're not exactly sure when those will be, but we'll try to get those scheduled as soon as possible. We know there's a great need out there for training, and we're trying to get those established. This training will provide an overview of career cruising, and then it will get more specific for your school's needs. In the second portion, it is a full day training.
And I want to reiterate that these trainings are not only for new service career cruising schools, it's also for schools that had prior to this year had signed up with career cruising as a refresher. So these are free trainings. We have asked school districts to limit the people that attend to 1 or 2 people that are really integral and are going to drive the work around individual plans of study. We know some school districts are larger and need to send more people, so I think that's one of the reasons that the additional trainings have been planned. And I do want to say about those additional trainings, those should be somewhere early to mid-October in Oakley, Eudora, and Salina. And just to wrap up here, our goal is in the next 2 school years, 16-17 and 17-18, that each middle school and high school in Kansas would have both a product, not necessarily career cruising, but a product for individual plan of study and a process in place that they feel comfortable with moving forward with their students. And so to judge that and to help schools identify where they are with implementation, this fall we'll be sending out an IPS implementation survey, and it will be a brief survey that schools want to fill out. We only really need 1 per building. So if you have a middle school, a high school, or multiple of either of those, we'd need 1 for each building. But it basically is helping you as a school district identify where you are with implementing individual plans of study for your students beginning in the middle grades, both with the product and the process. So just as our final slide here, just a couple of reminders. Schools are not required to pay a vendor for individual plans of study. We do have some schools that have developed their own, and it's working very well for them. As long as that product meets the 4 minimum components of an individual plan of study that Kathleen took you through earlier, schools can create their own system and move forward with individual plans of study. And just as was previously mentioned, by the 17-18 school year, every middle school and high school in Kansas will have an IPS product and process in place. That doesn't necessarily mean that every one of your students in grades 6 through 12 or 7 through 12, wherever you start middle school, that doesn't mean that every student will have an individual plan of study. It just means the school's ready to start having those conversations and having the students develop their individual plans of study with a product and a process vetted through the last couple of years. So with that, that wraps up our individual plan of study update. We are going to be providing some further trainings similar to last spring this year, and those trainings will be the next iteration of the training, and it will be heavily focused on the process and actual career advising, having conversations with students and families about their careers, so that to help with the process and to help implement these across the state. So look for those trainings coming out sometime this year. And if you have any questions, feel free to call us here at KSDE. Again, my name is Jay Scott, Kathleen Mercer along with me today, and we're here to help. And Kent Reed also is our counseling consultant. You can contact him. We're the trifecta as far as that, with the individual plans of study and helping schools with it. So I think that concludes our update. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you down the road.
Okay, and this part of our Hot Topics is the Every Student Succeeds Act update, which we typically will refer to ESEA during the presentation. Today, our main focus will be on the term highly qualified teacher, because as many people have heard, there are major changes, but unfortunately, many people have also heard that highly qualified teacher is gone. Well, the definition has changed, and it doesn't go with highly qualified teacher anymore, so you will not see this term anymore in ESEA. It's been deleted. But the underlying requirement remains mostly unchanged, and that's what the focus will be of the next few slides today. This is what the updated language says, and I'm going to read it exactly from one part of the law. A teacher who meets the applicable state certification and licensure requirements, including any requirements for certification obtained through alternative routes to certification, or with regard to special education teachers, the qualifications described in section 612A14C of the Individuals with Disabilities Act. So that is actually now the new terminology that we'll be using. The other question we've been getting a lot to is on paraprofessionals. These requirements under Title I remain unchanged. So any paraprofessional in a school-wide Title I building that provides instructional service still has to be highly qualified, either by having passed a test, having an associate's degree or higher, or having 48 hours of college credit or more. That is just for those in school-wides that provide the instructional support, or in Title I target assistance buildings who are paid with Title I funding. So what are the teacher certification requirements? This chart here shows the three main requirements. Any staff that are paid with title funds have to be properly licensed by the Kansas State Department of Education in the area which they teach, which in a school-wide, that would include all staff being properly licensed by KSDE through the teacher licensure and accreditation team. And there is the requirement to notify parents when their child has been assigned to or has been taught for 4 more consecutive weeks by a teacher that is not properly licensed. That remains in the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so that is when we have a teacher that may be going on maternity leave, could be on medical leave. It also occurs when we have districts that are unable to fill positions, which unfortunately we do have that situation again this year in many of our school districts where we've not been able to find qualified teachers that make the state regulations. So we're getting a lot of questions on, during the 2016-17 school year, do we have to continue to send out the 4 weeks letter to parents? Well, we have received clarifying guidance from the U.S. Department of Ed, and this applies only to the 2016-17 school year. Because as we mentioned, under ESEA, we do have to send that notice home. And D3 of the guidance asks this question: must a school continue to comply with section 1111H6B2 of the ESEA as amended by No Child Left Behind, which requires a school to notify parents when their child has been assigned to or has been taught for 4 or more consecutive weeks by a teacher who is not highly qualified? And as you can tell, the answer from the Department of Ed is no, and they go on to describe the reasons why for just the 2016-17 year they are saying we do not have to do this. However, the Kansas State Department of Education and the Early Childhood Special Education and Title Services team strongly recommends that you go ahead during the 16-17 school year and send out the 4 weeks letter. It's a good way to show transparency for school districts. It's also to be prepared and upfront, letting parents know what's happening rather than having somebody after the fact come up and ask about the qualifications. Because if we send out letters in 15-16, don't this year, and then again in 17-18, it's going to show a lot of red flags. So when we are receiving these questions on the phone and through email, we are telling school districts that they do need to still send out the 4 weeks letter. However, as you can tell by this guidance, we will not be requiring those letters, and we will be not monitoring those letters because the Department of Ed is saying you do not have to. But it is still, in our opinion, best practice to send out these 4 week letters. And just some general updates on the Every Student Succeeds Act on some implementation dates. October 1st of 2016, coming up here shortly, is the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act goes into effect. Many school districts have already started using the new law because it is above and beyond the current law, and that is perfectly fine. But as of October 1st, 2016, all school districts will have to be complying with the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act as it was reauthorized under ESEA. Stay tuned through Hot Topics, XS Newsletter, XS Listserv, Homeless Listserv, and other webinar activities that KSDE will be presenting as we go forward with more information on that. Another more recent change is on December 10th, 2016, the Title I foster care provisions will go into effect. This is going into effect on that date because awaiting foster care is being removed from the definition of homeless on that same date. We will be providing more information as we go forward. At this time, we are identifying a foster care liaison at the state level, and we'll be presenting webinars and updating information to the field on those provisions as we work with the Department of Children and Families with this. The majority of ESEA then goes into effect July 1 of 2017 for the 2017-18 school year. My contact information is Tateman, Toedman, at KSDE.org, or if you have general ESEA questions, we encourage you to send those to ESEAquestions@KSDE.org. We also take comments, suggestions, anything having to do with ESEA, we'd like you to send there, and we will respond and look into your comments and try to get information forward as soon and timely as possible as we get closer to full implementation. Thank you, and again, if there's any questions, feel free to contact us.
All right. Hello, Kansas. This is Scott Meyers. I'm the Director of Teacher Licensure and Accreditation for the Kansas State Department of Education, and I'm pleased to be working with you today on the topic of accreditation. As you are probably aware, the State Board of Education in June acted upon and accepted a new form of accreditation for the state of Kansas. And so now we're in the process of working with the field so as to get everyone prepared for this new system. The best news, the great news for you is we are moving into what is commonly referred to as the 0 year. During this 0 year, what we really want for people is we need the districts, the systems across the state of Kansas to become aware of and learn the pieces and parts of the accreditation system. We have set up across the state of Kansas a series of learning opportunities for people to come out and to receive the information I will be covering with you today. The events that are held across the state are 2.5 to 3 hours in length. We're not doing that today. I'm just going to give you a brief overview, but then you will be able to access information yourself at home at your leisure. The design throughout the year, throughout the 0 year, is we'll be out on the beaten path 4 times throughout the year in a variety of locations across the state. I think this first go around there are 13 different spots regionally where we are talking through the Q1 information for 0 year. Then in mid-October or November, we'll be doing Q2. And Q3, it'll be during the 3rd quarter of the academic year. And then the 4th quarter, we'll be sharing the 4th quarter information of the 0 year. And all of this is leading up to the launching of the new accreditation system, which begins with year 1 of the cycle on July 1st of 2017. So one piece of really good news is your assignment for this year is to learn about our system, the new system that we'll be moving forward with in the state of Kansas. The other really good piece of information about this is the information that we're sharing was truly developed with the systems in mind who have really not done anything with accreditation with our new system. It's brand new to you. So this is leveled to a spot where anybody can come in and learn from day 0, if you will. Now, if you are a part of the system that has been involved in this for the last couple of years, because we've had a variety of groups working on this now for a good 4 years, great. Use this year as a refresher course. Use it as a year to deepen your knowledge. It accommodates those individuals as well, those districts as well. So what my intention is today is to share with you the resources as you'd find them on our webpage. So for some of you, you've been to this, you can get to it faster than I can. For others of you, you may have never been to the Kansas State Department of Education website. That's okay. That's the beauty of the situation. It'll fit all. So to get things started, when you're looking for information to share with your constituents, your site councils, your teachers, your school board members, your students, the first place to go is go to our overall page, the KSDE.org front page, if you will. So it's right up here at the top, www.ksde.org. That takes you to our website. The easiest way to find the information around the accreditation system, which is commonly known as KISA, is go to the K index, across the index here. Click on the K. We're going to do that. It brings up the Ks. Look at that. Then come down and find where it says Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. That's our new system. The former system was QPA, Quality Performance Accreditation. Our new system is known as Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. Click on that. And that takes us to the home page, if you will, for KISA. Everything that we've developed and we continue to develop shows up on this page, and it just scrolls for a while. Of course, all of this is here for your use. It's great opportunities for you to use with a variety of resources at home. If you look, I'll show you a few common things here that you'll see as you go through the pages. This K-12 accreditation pages, you'll always see this over to the right-hand side, all these links you're welcome to go to and utilize. A variety of information. The actual Q1, it says training sessions here, is in this area right here, underneath the 0-year information. And as the year progresses, we'll leave this up, but we'll add information to it that will then say Q2 training sessions. So it's very simplistically laid out. As you also peruse this website, you'll see a series of factoids, and they're dated as to when we sent them out. It's just good information, one-stop shopping for a discrete piece of the new system. So I'm randomly choosing this factoid we put out on April 18th of 16, which says basic KISA facts. Let's click on it and see what it shows. All right, it says KISA factoid number 3. It defines what KISA, what the acronym KISA, what it means. And it just walks through a variety of basics. And for this particular fact sheet, it talks about the ratings. It talks about the process. Shows information about the framework. And you see it's just one page. However, of course, there are a series of links here that will give you a deeper dive into the different pieces and parts of whichever factoid you happen to be examining. So we'll close out of that. Go back to this page where I was previously. And you'll see there are 8 of these at this moment, 8 different factoids. So if you are desiring more information about timelines, go right there to number 4. If you think you've heard something about the OVT, there you go. You can go right in there and find out some more factoid information about it. Once again, the great thing about this 0 year is it's just a year for you to get used to the language and to learn the pieces and parts. There's no need to go forth and implement a lot of stuff at this point. So when you see specialized language like OVT, truly don't fret. The information is coming for you to learn more and more about whatever the different parts are. Obviously, this all relates back to the State Board vision, and you have the different pieces of foundation work which guides all the efforts that we're putting forth, and then some more resources that have been created to assist the field as we move forward. And as you dig into different areas, or you access different resources, oftentimes you'll find that it's also linked to other resources. And so you can go through all sorts of information to help you with your work at home. So this is an important page. Remember how you get here. You go to the Kansas State Department of Education webpage, and I'm going to back it up just to make sure we all know how to go about doing this. Go to K. Then you're going to see this alphabetized list. We're finding KISA, Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. And there we are. We're to the page. Okay? So when you have questions or people have questions, when they hear there's something new going on with school improvement, send them to this webpage. All right. The actual Q1 guidance booklet is right here. This is KISA 0-year guidance, Q1. As I said earlier, we will be adding Q2, Q3, Q4. We're going to click in on this. The actual learning opportunities taking place across the state of Kansas as we speak, we are using this guidance document. And it's set up in a sequential manner to help you walk through to learn about, well, what are we doing in the first quarter? Is an index, table of contents if you want, is what it says. So if you want to go to the commissioner's message, go to page 3 of this PDF. If you're wanting to know about transitioning to KISA, go to page 7. If you need some information about the foundational structure statement, it'll be found on page 34. And then if you want to see some information about licensure, you go to page 42. And each of the 4 quarters will have a document like this to help guide you through. On page 3, I'm not going to play it for you, we're short on time, but this is Dr. Randy Watson, our commissioner, giving you some information about the new accreditation model It's a really nice brief overview and the thinking behind the new model itself. Obviously, once again, as I said previously, the work that's taking place is tied back to the state board vision and the outcomes. These are here for you just to take a look at. And then it all is headed toward helping us produce successful Kansas high school graduates around the discrete areas of need. So, as we dig in further, and my intention is not to read all these slides to you, but just again to give you an overview. So I'm going to pick and choose a few spots here or there. So this is a general overview of what is KISA. Here's a phonetics pronunciation of it. The big adjustment from the old accreditation system to the new accreditation system, fundamentally there are several changes. One is it is a systems approach. It's no longer accreditation by individual school buildings. It's for the entire district and the entire school system. Second fundamental adjustment is no longer is it a one-year cycle, and accreditation was based on basically AYP, the testing on the state assessments. State assessments are still a piece of what we're doing, but it's just a piece of what we're doing. And it's grown from a one-year cycle to a 5-year cycle, and deals with a growth model on measures, outcomes, and designs. Transitioning to KISA, I'll mention a little bit here. Right here highlights what I said earlier on. These materials were created in mind the individual systems who have not yet started. That's fine, perfectly fine. You don't get extra A's if you're in year 3, in your mind's eye. If you're at year 0 right now, that is perfectly fine. This information will help you through it, and of course we're here to help as well. If you are already moving down the path, you've already been working on this area for a while, that's fine as well. You just continue on, review and verify as far as the work that you've been taking place at home. So this is it truly is a 0 year, as it says right here. The new 5-year cycle begins July 1 of 17. All right, this is a nice overview of the 0-year guidance plan. We happen to be in this booklet, as it's labeled, this booklet. And so it's organized by topics and timing. And so I don't care where we are talking about this. I don't care what time of the year it is. We will be talking at some point in time about the stakeholder teams and what types of things might be taking place during this time period. So, right, the topic number 1 is organized stakeholder teams. Now, a person could look at this, and if you've never seen anything about this, and say, oh my goodness, I have to create a whole bunch of new teams. That's not, it may look like that, but that's not the reality. The reality is we're not looking for people to create a whole bunch of new stuff. We just need to look to see what they're currently doing and then see how it can be used in the future. Buildings, for years now, by statute, have to maintain a site council. Well, a BSC is a building site council. That's done. It's already finished. The DSC is a district site council. And there are a lot of districts out there who have this already. There are a lot of districts out there who don't have that right now. When I was the superintendent, what I did is I took my BSCs, my building site councils, I brought them together, and I called it my Site Council Summit. That would work. It's a different label, a different name, but it's the functioning of the group that matters. So there's information throughout this guidance booklet about this area. As far as studying the model and the process, what you'll see here is we've chunked it. So in quarter 1, we're talking about the systems approach, the idea behind a systems approach, the research basis for going about accreditation in that manner, the growth process, and a review of the 5 R's, the framework. That's quarter 1. In quarter 2, on this particular topic area, we move to talking about the staggered implementation plan. In the state of Kansas, we have 400 about 400 accredited groups. And so it's going to be necessary for us to have a staggered implementation plan, meaning some systems will come in at the very beginning of the cycle. They're in year 1. It also means that we'll need some who are ready to come in at year 3. That's fine. So we've accommodated that. We've thought that through. There's a process overview, and then detail of the cycles. And you can go across the rows here and see how it grows throughout the year. In the second guidance plan, we go out for the second quarter, and then the third, and then the fourth. All this information will still be here. It's just the gold will be moving across, and it'll continue to grow. So the color helps us with remembering where we're at. Something else I do want to point out on this particular slide is on most of these slides, if not all, up in the right-hand corner are direct contact people. So as you're having questions, you can look up there and say, oh, Kelly, I've got a question about rubric 2, familiarization of IRA and calibration. Well, Kelly is the contact person. Now you can call us other people as well, but we put the people up top who would be the content experts. Something else is you've got down at the footer of each one of these slides links that will take you directly to the KISA page on our website. So you can see how the topics work down, rubrics, discussions, foundational, and compliance. Now, I do want to mention on the rubrics, there are 4 rubrics, and I think it's fine if you want to try to tackle them all at once. I personally would not. I would choose a rubric, any one of them. At one of the sessions we've already done, the suggestion came from the field. If you've done nothing with the KISA model, find, and it's in here, the rubric on relevance and begin your work there. It's got the most user-friendly language. It's most easily understood. So it's a good way to acclimate yourself to it. And once again, there's no test given at the end of quarter 1 over whatever rubric you did. It's just a way to chunk out the year so that when we do move into year 1 next year, and we're utilizing these rubrics as our needs assessments, then you'll already know how it works. So this is the guiding document for the year. Then you'll see on the guiding document, it talks about organizing stakeholder teams. It says on page 9, you'll find that. Well, look at that. We're on page 9, and it says organize stakeholder teams. Then the next few slides will give you specific information about what they might look like. I do want to highlight there's no need to create new separate district leadership teams. Also, as you see through these slides, little places that are links, those will take you to the factoids. So that the factoids I shared with you earlier, this will take you right back to it. So you're saying, I don't quite remember some of that information. Click on that and you're there. So here's some general ideas about the composition of the district leadership team. And then what you have is a potential agenda. As you pull this group together, well, what could you be doing? You don't want to meet just for meeting's sake. Well, here's a potential lesson plan for you, if you will, utilizing this entire booklet. So then after the district leadership team, it takes us to the building leadership team and reiterates the composition. And the next slide is their agenda that you might want to use. So we have district leadership team, building leadership team. Now you're saying, we are a K-12 district in one building. How in the world can we have all these different teams? It may absolutely be appropriate that you have one team serving both of those capacities. That's fine. We will work with you on that. We want to make sure this fits your needs at home as well, not just some generic approach. Then we have site councils, and site councils made up of non-employee stakeholders. It's a philosophical importance that transparency occur within what we're doing. And one real solid way of making that happen is utilization of site councils. So just like we have the leadership teams at the district and the building level, site councils at the district and level, district and building. And then once again, just the way this is formatted, we have potential agenda items to discuss while you're pulling those groups together. And there's a building site council. Okay, so that's section 1 of this guidance document. It continues on through all the remainder of the sections of the guidance document. And once again, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. You have the opportunity and the time to do this at home. There's no requirement to go through it all at once at all. There's no requirement to go through it. I would highly recommend that you start looking through it. But I'd be chunking it out into probably monthly meetings where I'd be trying to get my people up to speed on what the different areas are within this guidance document. If you simply do that, by the end of this school year, you will be ready to rock and roll when we hit the next school year and we hit the hit year 1 of the cycle. So then we have a little bit of information on how to go about helping people understand the rubrics, how we quote unquote score ourselves. Now, will you have to turn in a sheet of paper that says I follow this exact format? No. It's just a good best practice on how to go about deciding where you are on that particular rubric. Some information about inter-rater agreement, which in a real nutshell, it's a fancy way of saying that 2 or more people agree on something. They agree on the characteristics of something. And there's all sorts of information about how to go about doing that at home. Then, of course, as an aspect of accreditation, it's process and results. We'll be providing information throughout the year on a variety of different types of data. This particular quarter deals with academic cognitive, kindergarten readiness, and information will be coming as the work groups are finalizing their efforts within those areas. Step 5, we're evaluating some foundational structures of what it means to have a school system. So we need to have certain things in place. And there's just several listed here for you to take your time and go back and read. And once again, if you look up in the upper right-hand corner, you have people named. So as you come across something that seems a little foreign to you, or I can see what it says, but I'm not sure what it means, it's a great contact up there at the top. Or you're welcome to call TLA as well. That's my team. And we'll help you through it as well. I think that's a pretty powerful picture, by the way. I always got equity and equality confused in my little brain until I saw this picture, and it makes sense. Along with foundational items, there are certain compliance areas, basically applicable state and federal statutory and regulatory requirements. So we take that into account. And here are some of them: licensure and professional development, mentoring, evaluation work. And what you have here is toward the end of the guidance booklet is a resource index. So if you want a quick jump to the different areas. And a variety of this material has been created through the greater educational community. Like I said, many different groups: teachers, administrators, district administrators, curriculum directors, higher ed, a variety of groups, patrons have worked on this new accreditation system for a while now. And so a lot of good materials have been created to help at home. The KPLT, Kansas Professional Learning Team, has specifically come together and said, here's a good way for people to understand this, whatever it happens to be. And so utilize these resources, please. And it brings us to the end here. If you have questions, feel free, as I said, going through it, to reach out to the people up in the upper right-hand corners, or feel free to give us a call at TLA. Kelly Slayton and Ann Yates are our lead education program consultants on accreditation. Bill Bagshaw is the assistant director who's leading these efforts. And then, of course, you have myself, Scott Meyers, the director. And then, of course, any other questions, you feel free to contact Brad Neuenswander, or I'm sure Dr. Randy Watson. We are here, as always, to assist you in your efforts And the main thing is, be aware, truly take me at my word on this. This first year is all about getting yourself acclimated and learning about it. We will be having ongoing hot topics around accreditation. They won't be as long as this one is. I wanted to get a general overview for you. As you have questions though, and you need to hear something else, drop me a line, give me a holler, and I'll be glad to cover whatever might be needed. So with that, I'm going to sign off and wish you all a great day.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you back to our first episode